Everyone is creative.
A creative life requires
bravery and action,
honesty and hard work.
We're here to support and celebrate.
And encourage you to make the things that you love.
We believe in the power of community.
We believe in giving a damn.
We believe in face-to-face connections.
In learning from others.
In hugs.
And high fives.
We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose.
Confident they will inspire one another.
And inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world.
Everyone.
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 Everyone is welcome.
That's yours. Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be sharing my thoughts with you this morning on the global theme thread. It's a perfect choice for a writer. I was intuitively drawn to this word. But the more I tumbled it around in my head, the more I realized that it's a very apt metaphor for how my life, my personal life and my professional life, have unfolded over the years. Right off the hop, let's talk about my name. Mama named me after lipstick. Swear to God, that's right, lipstick. Years before I was born, she saw a commercial in the Philippines on television advertising lipstick. The name stuck because she was really drawn to the unusual spelling of joy. That's how Filipinos pronounce it. However, it was only after moving to Canada and being thrown into French immersion kindergarten that I learned it's actually pronounced joie. I also learned, however, that most people in Canada will look at J-O-I-E on a piece of paper and say Joey. Oh. Dear God, no, never. I was so pissed off by that that for a few months in grade 4, I staged a boycott. I actually started spelling my name J-O-Y because I was so sick and tired of explaining to substitute teachers that it wasn't Joyce or Josie or Joey. Forget that. I do, however, genuinely love the unique way that my name is spelled now. Because I speak French, and because all my French-speaking friends call me Joie, in my adult life, I've taken to offering people the choice. Whether you prefer to call me Joy or Joie, it's totally up to you. Over 50% of the people choose the French pronunciation. But it was one of my first object lessons that words really play a key role in shaping how you perceive yourself, how you portray your identity. Words matter. Okay, let's dive in. I would like you to take pause with me for a moment, and let's all tap into a personal, long-held memory, one that brings you great joy. I'd like you to recall a taste from your childhood that immediately takes you right back to being a kid again the minute you think about it. Close your eyes if you like, or feel free to keep them open if that's more comfortable, but immerse yourself in that memory. What were you eating? Was it crunchy lumpia or perfectly ripe cherries? Was it hot buttered movie popcorn or freshly baked alfajores? What did it smell like? Was it sweet and caramelly, garlicky and pungent? How did it feel in your mouth? What was the texture like? Was it crackly and crisp? Was it smooth and velvety? Who were you with when you were eating? Were you nestled in your mom and dad's lap, or sitting in the backyard with your best friend, or perched on a kitchen stool at your grandmother and grandfather's house? How did eating this food make you feel? Or were you giggly? Were you comforted? Did you feel loved? Finally, I'd like you to recall the last time you ate that food as an adult. Maybe it was just last night. Maybe it was 5 years ago. But when you ate that food, did it bring back all of those visceral memories flooding in, just like it is right now? As I invite you to open your eyes once again, if you had them closed, I'd like you to hold that love and that joy in your heart this Friday. Carry it with you through your day like a secret treasure that brings a smile to your face. Food is a powerful memory trigger, rooting you to people, places, and moments in time. Some of my earliest and fondest memories were of food. 4-year-old me sitting in the sunshine on my grandparents' back step in the Philippines, shirtless, with a half Philippine mango in my hand turned inside out, and juice was running down my chin and my forearms. It was perfect. Or the cool, sweet creaminess of super mocha ice cream that I would spoon into with my Lola, my grandma, while sitting at a Magnolia ice cream parlor in Davao. It was also the smoky smell of roasting corn from street vendor stands during twilight pedicab rides home with Mama. I hold these memories precious in my heart, along with my earliest recollections of learning how to read and the beginning of my lifelong love affair with words. I was a precocious, gifted kid. I learned to speak really early. I was reading by 3. By the time I was 5, I was pretty much reading anything I could get my hands on. By default, more often than not, it was an errant copy of Reader's Digest that my grandparents had or my mom had lying around the house. Celine and Alan and Vince are gonna laugh at this, but my favorite column as a 5-year-old was "It pays to increase your word power." $10 words for a 5-year-old kid. Little did I know exactly how true the title of that quiz would come to ring true for me. As the only child of a single working mom, I spent a ton of time at home alone. Books were some of my best friends. Words were my playmates. I wrote my first short story when I was 7, my first performed play when I was 9. But little girl me would never have believed it if you had told me that those promising beginnings would lead to an 18-year and counting career in writing and 2 best-selling cookbooks with Penguin Random House. In my dreams, because growing up in a Filipino immigrant household, I struggled with the weight of expectation well into my young adulthood. All of y'all from immigrant families know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, Shabna. Because success was defined in terms of accomplishment, status, and financial gain. That was the point of immigrating to Canada. My mom and her brother and sister wanted to give us all the best possible shot at the brightest possible future. I was the brainy one, and so everybody expected that I was going to be a doctor or a lawyer. So I chose law. Even though I loved to write, and even though I'd been in performing arts, singing, and musical theater since I could walk. Though business was the intended gateway, and I'm so sorry for this, Kari, I kicked that to the curb after a year at UBC Commerce in favor of English honors instead, with a lot of encouragement from the faculty head. It was still a great ramp up to law school, but somehow it wasn't sitting quite right with me. Because I grew up as a latchkey kid, I was bound and determined that I was going to do everything in my power to shape my life so that my child didn't have to go through what I did growing up. I wanted to be there for all the milestones, big and small. Be in the stands or on the sidelines, yelling my face off at all the sports tourneys and swim meets, whether here or across the country. So if that was the deal breaker, clearly taking time off to be a stay-at-home mom while trying to pursue a successful law career, that was not happening. So what now? It was okay not to know. The antithesis of having a neatly laid out roadmap of my life in front of me. But every end is a beginning. Closing the door on a law career opened the door to the rest of my life. The trajectory ended up being an award-winning real estate marketing career as an executive and a consultant on both the agency side and the developer side. Never mind that I had no formal training in business, marketing, interior or graphic design, architecture. I didn't let that stop me from viewing challenges that came my way as opportunities instead of obstacles. What I did have was an innate curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, as well as an intuitive, natural eye for design. And when the time was right, I happily gave up all of that business success to be a mom. Best decision of my life. How did I start food writing and culinary awards judging? Well, serendipity. Turns out it was just as easy as asking. Through an online food community way back when, known as eGullet, Mark, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, I was introduced to the Vancouver restaurant community. Chefs, bakers, restaurateurs, ordinary eaters like me, writers, all of us. Thanks to fellow eGulleter Jamie Ma, who was then the food and beverage editor for Vancouver Magazine, but coincidentally, also the fiancé of one of my previous sales managers when I was on the agency side. My first story was a feature in the December 2006 Power 50 issue. It was about a much-loved, but unfortunately rather short-lived modern Filipino restaurant called Recados. Definitely ahead of its time. In pinpointing what writing means to me and how I approach it, it all boils down to two things. The first one is trust. Trust in myself. Trust in the skills that I've developed over time and my ability to craft a story in a unique, captivating way. Everyone in this room, whatever our discipline, we as creatives had put in countless hours to hone our craft. Unseen and immeasurable amount of training, ruminating, drafting and redrafting, refining. And when we hit that sweet spot, man, it all coalesces in a magical light bulb moment of clarity, revelation, and discovery. We just have to make sure that our minds are open enough to receive that inspiration. As well, the trust and rapport between subject and storyteller is established pretty damn quickly. An hour or two for a one-page article. But for a 300-page cookbook, that connection evolves and deepens over the course of, say, 3 to 4 years. When immersed in an interview, listening is obviously key. I research beforehand and come prepared with a loose outline of notes to direct the general flow of our chat. Ultimately, though, I follow their lead and make the intuitive leaps along with them if the story guides us in a different direction. Because active listening involves way more than simply hearing what someone's saying. It's being tuned in to that person's inflection and body language, paying attention to when their face softens or when their eyes begin to sparkle. That trust breeds intimacy, after all. And the meandering path of a conversation often leads to the speaking of truths that had only previously been held in silence. Then there's courage. In winnowing through my copious notes, it takes courage to push through overthinking, self-doubt, let's be real, imposter syndrome, eliminating what's unnecessary and committing to that first sentence, distilling my thoughts and choosing one story arc. It's like being given a tangled ball of string, a tangled ball of thread, if you will, and figuring out, how do I unravel this? But all the answers are right there in front of me. All I have to do is figure out just how I want to approach it. I have to quiet my mind, breathe into the story, and listen to how it wants to be told. My ultimate goal is to amplify and support the endeavors of Vancouver's restaurant community. I want to pique your curiosity about the people who prepare and serve your food, the chefs and restaurateurs. Engage all of your senses so that you want to know about the farmers and the fishermen who supply them. Read between the lines and develop a deeper connection and appreciation for what you eat and drink. Above all, support small businesses. Don't take them for granted. COVID showed us that. The Greek philosopher Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. This might seem a little weird, but rather than pursuing happiness, which can come easy from a great donut or a sunset or the best nap ever, harness your courage and seek fulfillment. Step off of convention and go all in, because fulfillment is something that you will work your ass off for. You will sweat and sacrifice, pull all-nighters for it. You'll probably even fail now and again, but don't be afraid of failure, because failure is what precipitates growth and learning. When you're willing to assume risk, life has a remarkable capacity for expanding and bringing us opportunities to succeed. It was in this spirit of boldness that I took a chance on developing Inday, a cross-Canada Filipino chef exchange. I had been carrying around the idea of a local storytelling dinner series all through the long, seemingly interminable days of COVID lockdown. And I'd actually made a fair bit of progress through the planning stages. But all of a sudden, and very unexpectedly, things came to a halt. A younger version of me would have thought, holy crap, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not grinding hard enough for this. But this me, with a wealth of life lessons behind me, realized that maybe I should put the brakes on too. Just hold up for a second and reassess. See, when looking for answers on your creative journey, sometimes it's not always a black and white yes or no. Sometimes it's wait. I firmly believe that if you have to push too hard to force something into existence, it probably wasn't meant to be in that particular form or at that particular moment in time. So I shelved the idea for a bit, but it wasn't dead. It was just dormant. In that waiting time, I was working on an article for an international publication, interestingly enough, on Filipino food. Philippine culture is a rich tapestry woven from the collective threads of our identities as Filipinos. I was deeply moved by the intensely personal conversations, powerful, during my interviews with both local and American chefs. And it increasingly prompted me to wonder that if both Andrew Zimmern and Anthony Bourdain had declared in 2012 and 2017, respectively, that Filipino food is about to have its moment, why didn't it figure more prominently in the North American dining lexicon? Why? What's missing? Cohesive dialogue, opportunity, and education. So I kept the conversation going with these jokers. Thanks to a gift of Kasama chocolate to sweeten my life during COVID lockdown, I met Vince Garcia. And after linking up with him, he in turn introduced me to Celine and Alan Bacani of Lee's Donuts. That instant synergy sparked some really cool brainstorming sessions about how we could increase awareness of Philippine cuisine here in Vancouver. Then, this past February, at the Canadian Culinary Championships, of which I am the head BC judge, I met chefs Rupert Garcia and JP Dublado. They placed silver and bronze, respectively, on the national stage. JP Dublado won People's Choice twice for in 1,000 people. And that was proof positive right there that the interest in and appetite for Filipino food exists. My blue sky ideation brain went into overdrive. Why stop at just Vancouver? Why don't we bring this network of Filipino-Canadian culinarians nationwide? We literally spoke Inday into existence. That previous photo was from February. I first chatted with Alan and Celine in October. This was from May. Team Inday began to grow. And a little backstory, Inday, the name, is dichotomous in and of itself. In my home city in the Visayas, which is in the center and the south of the Philippines, Inday is a nickname that is given to the most beloved girl or woman. It was my mama's nickname. But in the north, around Metro Manila, and in the Tagalog-speaking areas, Inday references domestic help. Nannies, yayas, laundry women, housekeepers. And in 2 syllables, it encapsulates the dichotomy between love and sacrifice. By conflating that, we of Inday are seeking to emphasize our collective strength as Filipino Canadians, looking past the divisions that exist within our own culture. In growing Inday, interestingly enough, my background in marketing and branding fully came into play. This crazy group brought a business concept to life in 2.5 months. We ideated it, we created it, we branded it, we established the marketing and PR trajectory for it. 2.5 months. That's nutso. Ask my husband, ask my bestie, ask these people. I didn't sleep from pretty much May until last night. Our goal is to spotlight Filipino cuisine, as I said, through soulful culinary collaborations between highly accomplished Filipino-Canadian chefs who are at the tops of their games, highlighting the beauty of third culture cooking through the lens of their personal experiences. When Filipinos emigrate from the motherland, food is the golden thread that ties us to a sense of home, the culinary touchstone that keeps us grounded. We're taking it beyond Jollibee and steam table fare and pancit and lumpia and all the things that you think you know about Filipino cuisine, and instead, we are reimagining traditional recipes through a decidedly modern lens to nurture broader understanding of the cuisine and the culture that nourish us. In September, our 2 Alberta chefs flew here, and together with Michelin Bib Gourmand chefs Alden Ong of The Farmer's Apprentice and Basta Barbecue, and Ralph Carvalho of Gary's on 12th, we did a thing. We sold out 2 dinners, probably averaging about 80 to 85 people in total each night at Bravo on Fraser Street. Our guests were a super great mix of both Filipinos and non-Filipinos, including family, friends, and an amazing turnout by Vancouver's restaurant industry. The vibe was incredible, and there was such an amazing outpouring of love and support. A couple weeks ago, 2 Mondays ago, the entire Vancouver crew flew to Calgary for a 3rd sold-out dinner in Rupert Garcia's home kitchen at the Fairmont Pallisers Hawthorne Room. This event was a little more buttoned up. We presented it like a Visa Infinite dinner with me as the MC for the evening, a few words from my co-founder Celine, and interviews with each of the chefs introducing their courses and explaining the root recipe and the inspiration behind them. It was the storytelling component that the Vancouver event was missing, and the emotion in the room at the end of the night brought many of us to tears. Celine, Allen, and I embraced the risk to pursue a project that had never been done before that truly fulfilled us. Life definitely has expanded, and the road of possibilities ahead is rising to meet us. If you take anything away from this morning, it's to choose the opportunities that scare the crap out of you. Because those are the ones that stretch you, where you really grow. Do the deep dive and breathe into both the pain and the joy that you experience along your path of discovery. Grant yourself the same patience, softness, and grace that you so freely give to others. And always, 100% of the time, be brave enough to keep following the thread. My deepest thanks to each one of you for the precious gifts of your time and your open minds today. My heart is full. Thank you so much.
With a car. Yay. Awesome. So now we're going to ask you some questions. We've got just a few minutes, I think, for questions. And so we got 2 or 3 questions. Mark's got the mic. Who's got the most burning question? What? There's got to be a question. Mark's on it.
Oh, thank you. Goodbye. We're done. No questions.
No question?
No. Come on, come on.
Yes. There's one.
Hi, my name is Angela. Joy, I was really struck by how you're really able to speak from your heart and use emotion, which I think, for maybe not use is not the right word, but be comfortable with it. I was mentioning that I think that sometimes we feel like we need to be professional. Oh, there's a cockroach. We feel like we need to be professional and like close it off and not show up that way. And I was just wondering, like, if you could talk about your journey with that, and because I think it's kind of part of your superpower.
Tears are, I'm crying all the time this morning. It comes along with expectation. We feel like we have to fit into these boxes. We feel, especially women, we have to squish all of that down. We got to be the chick dude at the boardroom table, and I did that. Power suit, high heels, briefcase, whole 9 yards. But why? Creative discovery comes from here. And in order to do that, this thing that my high school English teacher said to me, I carry it with me today. Being a good writer or being a creative of any stripe, it feels like walking around with your skin peeled back all the time. Let it all wash over you. Breathe into it, feel it. Y'all are giving so much today, and it's why I'm so emotional in front of you. Wear your heart on your sleeve. It helps by bridging the gap between people, vulnerability between people. We lack that. We lack looking in each other's eyes. We lack this crack in your voice. Don't live life here at the surface. Be courageous. Do the deep dive, because you won't regret it.
Hi. My name is Mark, and I have a foodie question for you.
Foodie's an F word.
You knew I had to ask. Okay. I have this problem. I'm wondering if you have this problem. It's a 2-part question. The first one is, when you're known as a competent or even sort of like oh, she's a cook. Oh, she's a judge. She has very refined tastes. She's known for her culinary culture and
Wendy's Frosties.
Whatever. I know. So, but like, if you were having someone over to the house that you and your husband really wanted to impress and love as friends, what's your go-to dish? What's your go-to dish? And do you get invited to other people's houses? Because I find people were like, they'll admit to me in private moments, they're like, we don't need to have you guys over because I really don't want you to judge our cooking. I'm like,
I see you. I see you.
hot dogs. What?
My default food at home when I want to invite people to share the table with me, it's not fancy. I get enough of that at work. It's Filipino food. I didn't learn to cook Filipino food from my mom because it was always a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I made something for her one day for the very first time years ago when Noah was little, and she was eating it. She loved it. She said, "Where did you learn how to cook this?" I said, "Not from you." Honestly, it's Filipino food. And Mark, I will also readily say that it used to freaked the crap out of me because my friend network is chefs and restaurateurs. So when I had them over, I'm like, oh my God. Just like Celine and Ellen had me over for the best steak of my life, but y'all were also saying, oh my God, Joie's coming over for dinner. I cooked them something that I know, something that's close to me. But the impressive part is your company at the table. And so to facilitate that, just, make it easy. Make it something that resonates with you.
Mark, I think we're running out of time here.
Let's let
One more? Okay, excellent. One more.
Thank you. We had been given this morning to say a thread that connects my creative journey is, so everybody has written. So I wrote sharing fruit, mainly because I consider every person as a fruit tree, and the wisdom is fruit. So when you are sharing your ideas of creativity, you are sharing the fruit of the tree. So can you give me any comments?
At my grandparents' house, so I was born in the north of the Philippines in Metro Manila, and then when I was about 2, we moved south to live with my maternal grandparents in Davao before we journeyed all the way back up again to emigrate to Canada. But in the backyard of my grandparents' house was a fruit tree orchard. We had mangoes, we had santol, we had balimbing, star fruit, star apples. The thing, aside from the mangoes, which I already talked about, that I loved the most were guavas. Because Shabna knows this, you know this, when they're what you get in the markets here, when you can find them, it's pretty sad. But man, when they are ripe off the tree and you bite into it and it's juicy and it's musky and it's full, dang, that is a taste experience that I hope everybody gets to have. And we had both pink guavas and white guavas. And so the other food memory that I didn't mention was the sound of this huge cauldron on the stove bubbling away. And that was my Lola's guava jam. And so again, thank you for asking that, because it just reinforces what I was saying this morning, brings us full circle, closes the stitch of thread, if you will. Keep those resonant memories in your heart. Don't stray from those. Those are the things that ground you. Those are the things that when you're stressed, when you're anxious, when you're worried, they remind you of who you are, where you came from, because history is, looking back on history shapes where we're going in the future. That's all of our superpower. Tap into that.